away. Gary, are they sort of in the position that you'd have hoped that Cheltenham would have been in by this stage of the season, having both come up?
Yeah, well, they're in a better position, aren't they? Of course, and it'd have been nice to have, for ourselves to have been up there. But we watched quite a few of their games, and I'm sure they've watched quite a few of ours, and it would have been. Both teams, I think, would have felt that they could have won and lost some of those games. So we could very well be in that position, and maybe they could very well be in ours. But at the moment they're in a better position, which makes it more important for us to try and pick up the points.
But you go into this game off the back of a win. How much difference has that made to a week's training?
Yeah, it always makes a little bit of a difference, because you do everything with a little bit more of a smile on your face, and people are happier, of course, as they should be. But you still have to concentrate on the next game. You know, we said that a draw against who do we play for?
I was testing me now.
Accrington.
Accrington. We said that would be a good away draw if we then won our home game, which we did. What we said now is it's important that we put 2 or 3 wins together if we can. So we've got that 1 win, that's a start. Now we've got to put a couple more together, and then all of a sudden you'll find yourself in a lot better position in the league table. But I've been pleased with our performances since Luton, really pleased, and I think the confidence has gained since the Luton game, and we've looked a better football team than we did before that with the same players.
And obviously, having gone to Grimsby last season and won, presumably, there's nothing to fear. Plenty of hard work ahead, but nothing to fear.
No, if your side turn up and do the job, then there's never anything to fear. If you don't do your job and you don't turn up, then there's everything to fear. And unfortunately, for some reason, our away performances we haven't got a result yet away from home, and we've got to get that monkey off our back if we can by the first result we get away. Then at least that's cleared that one up, and this game gives us an opportunity to do that, of course, because it's away.
Players available again after suspension: Harry Pell, Daniel O'Shaughnessy. I mean, that presumably gives you a couple of nice problems to have.
Yeah, it does. It gives you two more players that you can choose from going into a very important game, and it gives you options then in your mind as a manager. Do you need to change the shape? Do you want to change the shape? Do you need to change the personnel? Do you need to change the personnel? So it does give us an extra option, and both of those have been probably 2 of our most consistent players over the season. But whether you change it or not as a manager is another one of those conundrums of what do you do for the next game when you've won the last one.
How's Carl Storer come through Crawley? Because obviously, first game back you can probably get through on adrenaline. Almost the second game sometimes can be more difficult.
Yeah, but then he's 90 minutes fitter, of course. But he's a clever lad, Carl, and he's a professional in his head, so he knows what he needs to do. We were asking him from 60 minutes onwards against Crawley, "Are you okay?" And he kept saying, "Yeah, I'm okay." His voice got a bit gruffer towards the end of it, but "Yeah, okay." But he wanted to stay on, and he was still doing the job, so we kept him on. And Carl wanted to be a part of it. He's waited such a long time. He didn't want to be taken off in his first league game of his career.
Have Grimsby changed much from last season, from the analysis you've done?
Well, they've still got the same manager, so they've still got, and I think he's a good manager, Paul Hurst. He's, he coped with a lot last year and come through it very well. And obviously got their promotion in the end, even though he was taking a little bit of stick throughout the season. But he kept his head down, he kept working to his plan, and the boys come up trumps for him. I think he's got a pretty new group. He's still got some players that were there last year, but he's also brought in some, and really they've started okay, and we've got to go there knowing that this is a football league game now as opposed to a conference game.
Everyone okay in your squad who's been sort of in the squad of late?
Yeah, everybody's okay. We've gained 2. Hawley won't be back for a little while, a week or 2. Rowie still hasn't come through yet. Dan Ullman, we're just waiting for. Any day now he's going to walk through the gates and go, I'm fit. So we just have to wait on him, really. Let's hope he does it this morning.
Thank you, good luck.
No problem.
In the case of Dan, is it just getting back to full ball striking, confidence and no
do you know
pain?
what? No, he's striking a ball. But he did have a couple of days ago, still a slight pain that's just in his head at the moment. It's not a pain in his head, the pain is in his foot, but in his head he's thinking, is it okay? And he goes to see a specialist today, actually, to give us the thoughts of today. Then if the specialist says, like I did the other day, the other week, get on with it, you tart, then he'll know that he's got to get on with it. I didn't get in trouble for saying that, did I? No, it was only you two got upset.
you tell us.
I did. No, it's only the player. But no, they know me. So yeah. So hopefully, the man who did the operation will tell him, get on with it.
How quickly do you think he'll be ready after that to come back in? How much work?
I think
has he been able to do?
he's done a lot of work. He has done a lot of work. A lot of that work has been limping. Because obviously when it's your big toe, it's a major part of your body. But he's really worked hard in the gym. He's worked very hard in the pool. He's worked very hard on I don't know what they call it, but the running machine that lifts you up a little bit.
The anti-gravity one.
That's it, the anti-gravity one, yeah. And so I think he would be fit if the doctor says he's fit.
Harry Powell obviously comes back into the mix, but the midfield probably gave their most complete performance, the 3 of them last week.
Super performance. It was from the whole team, because all teams have different shapes, and we have to deal with all them different shapes, because it's not only your own shape, it's the opposition shape, and they have strengths and weaknesses, and you've got to be able to cover that. But all in all, it was a real good performance by our midfield, but also by other lads that are around as well.
Has that given you a problem, given the fact that Pelly's probably been the best player so far this season?
Well, it's what you said about Shaughnessy as well. It sort of does give you a problem, but I've had to. How many teams have I had to pick over the last 30 years? You know what I mean? So for every one you pick, you've got to disappoint a few others, and as long as you're doing it with an honesty, and I've got nobody that I don't like here, so I'm not doing anything out of spite, as it were. So I have to leave someone out, whoever it is, even if he's played well previously, then that's what I've got to do. But they have to accept that and wait for their opportunity.
Danny Wright's obviously suspended. Have you come closer to thinking how you want to go with that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've been thinking about it since he got sent off. So I know what I'm going to do, and I know what I'm going to work on, and of course I'm not going to tell you.
Excellent. Just going back
only
a bit.
Because you'll tell people in your newspaper.
Just go back a bit to. I know you probably don't want to relive that time, but the day after the Monday after the Oval game, you spoke about having the players in sort of one-on-one and having conversations with them. Since then, obviously the unbeaten run's gone on, and the performances have improved. How important, looking back, do you think that day and those conversations with those players were?
Well, it's the first time I sort of mentioned it to you, but over the weeks I do talk to them individually just to make sure everything's okay. I think that time that you're mentioning was probably more intense in saying, look, if you don't start coming up with a game that is going to be an effective game, I'm not going to be able to play you anymore. So it was a little bit, you're going down, you're going down this road that might lead to you leaving in January. So be very careful. This is the game I think you've got. That's the game you need to perform. Now get on with it and do it. And if they trust you and you get them to agree with the principles of what you're saying, and that they agree that they have got that game in there in the bag, then it was up to them to prove to me in training and then in games that they've got that effective game that I'm looking for.
How important would you say man management is to being a manager? Is it right up there with the most important things?
Yeah, you can't be a manager without man managing. I think the one thing I've always said, you can't act. I don't think you can act. I can't come in happy and think, right, today I'm going to give people some stick and be angry. And at the same time, sometimes when you're angry, you don't want to be coming in going, well, I'm angry, but I'll try and be nice. I think the lads know with me, if I'm angry, I'm angry, and if I'm happy, I'm happy. They know that. And they know how to treat me in them, because I've got feelings, I've got a personality as well, I know sometimes I'm up there, sometimes not so much. But the man management is them knowing that you're trying to do the best for them. So it's like your son, you love him to death, sometimes you've got to tell him off, but your son knows that you still love him, you know what I mean? So they deal with it in that way. And what they also know, that if I don't love them, I'll tell them, and they won't last very long, and we end up moving them out and moving them on, sort of thing. So, I'm looking to do my best for everybody, whether I'm nose to nose with them, and some of them would have to be sitting down when I'm nose to nose, as you know. And sometimes I have to put my arm around them and say, look, I understand your problem, but let's fight our way through it. And that's what you have to be aware of. There's a real thin line between people feeling that managers are bullying people. I don't think you could do what you do in a professional football sense. Like you couldn't do what we do in a school and motivate kids like that don't know you. That, you know what I mean? It's a different kettle of fish. We're paying people to perform, and if you've got the right people, then they will perform, given that they trust the regime.
Just finally on Grimsby, 21 points ahead of them last season. Billy Waters said after Saturday's game, we proved we were better than them last season, and we still think we are better than them now. Is that the kind of...
Bill.
Yeah, I know it's a
that won't upset them, will it?
But is that the kind of sort of bullish thinking that you're actually kind of like from a 22-year-old?
Well, yeah, from Bill's point of view, because he's having a good little patch at the moment, a very good little patch. So, that bullishness comes from his confidence, and a confident Billy's a very, very good player. So, I'm happy to hear things like that. But you got to be careful when you wind up the opposition and say we were 21 points ahead of them and all that sort of thing, and we're better than them and this, that, and the other. So it's because they've got a strong squad. It is a strong squad. And whichever manager gets it right on the day, he's got every chance of getting a result.